Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video, we're covering the Commodore Amiga again, and specifically the Bridge card. It's a PC emulator card that goes in the Amiga and allows you to run PC software. It was released by Commodore way back in the day for the Amiga 2000, well actually for the Amiga 1000, and then later the 2000. This is a mail call item that a viewer sent in, and a little bit of a follow-up to a previous mail call item as well. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, we have a package here from Jamie in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin. Hi to all my viewers in Wisconsin. Of course, that's a US state. We have a letter and some very nicely wrapped things. Jamie says, here are the Amiga cards we discussed. I hope they made it to you intact. Yep, box is perfect. Zorro cards are awkwardly large. I have enclosed an A2088 bridge card, an A2286 bridge board, and two A2065 network cards that you can do with as you wish. I'm not sure when these will appear in your midweek mini mail call, but I look forward to seeing if you can get your A2000 to run some MS-DOS stuff. I look forward to watching these mail call episodes every Wednesday on my lunch break. I would like to send you some kind of regional snack, but I can't think of anything that would make it to you intact. Cheese curds and beer brats likely would not survive, especially if you wait weeks to open your package. Cheese curds? I love cheese curds, like so much. But yeah, because the packages sit around so long, pretty much candy is the only thing that is shelf stable enough to survive for weeks and weeks and weeks to months before I get to it. I think nothing I'm opening now in this batch of mail call stuff is older than 2 months old. But clearly cheese curds would not have survived 2 months. Okay, so first thing that Jamie has sent is a Zorro II Ethernet card. It's got AUI and coax on there, so it's probably 10 megabit of some kind. But look at the size of this thing. It's massive. What I really need to get is some of those AUI to 10 base T adapters so that I can take something like this and actually use it. Because right now I don't have anything to even plug it into. And here's the second network card that Jamie sent. It's another one of the same rather large cards. So I had a mail call video, I think it was a mail call video ways back, where I had a bridge card, the 8088 bridge card for the Amiga 2000, and I couldn't get that thing working. No matter what I did, it just would always give me an error when it was starting up. I spent a lot of time on that card and I just had no success with it. So Jamie said that he had both the XT card and the 286 card that he was willing to send me because he wasn't using them, so he has done that here. So this is the bridge card that is the 8088 one, similar to the one that I already had. So it'll be great because if this card does work, then that will validate that my software installation on the workbench I had was actually good. If this has exactly the same problems, then maybe that leads back to a software problem on my Amiga, so I just need to go try again on a different computer or switch out the Kickstart ROM or do something. And then this card, this is the 286 bridge card, so it has a 16-bit ISA slot down here, because this is a 286. I think this has 640K of RAM, so it's going to be a lot faster than the XT one. And this was probably a pretty expensive card. It says Rev 6.1. I've never used either of these functionally in my Amiga or ever in my life. So I'll be very curious to see how the 286 one works, what kind of performance you can get out of it. Of course, you can add a VGA card into the ISA bus and use that for video output so you're not reliant on the Amiga's video, because I think a 286 with a VGA card is going to offer some better performance and, of course, 256 colors. Something that an Amiga 2000 can't do, not without an extra video card. So very cool, thank you very much, Jamie. So let's take a look at this stuff on the bench, see if I can get some bridge card action working. Well, it's been a little while since we've looked at any Amiga stuff on mail call. You saw during the unboxing of this stuff that I unboxed it in May. It's now August, so it's been a little while. I think Jamie sent these cards in originally back in March of 2021. Well, that's when I got it, at least. So let's take a look at these cards. So these are the network cards. So as I mentioned, an AUI connection. So to use 10 base T with this card, which would be possible, you need a little transceiver which clips onto this connector, and then it will have the 10 base T connection, and the card itself powers the transceiver. So the card here is the A2085 Ethernet card, Rev 3. We have some PALs, programmable array logic. This is probably the Ethernet controller chip. Static RAM, probably some type of a buffer, maybe the interface between the controller and the Zorro bus, and some TTL logic. So pretty simple stuff. It says copyright 1990, Commodore Electronics, all rights reserved. And this is the other card, which is basically the same. Same Rev 3 card. Even has the sticker on the back with the copyright logo, or copyright message, that is. If anyone knows if these cards are actually useful in this day and age, like are there current modern drivers to use these with modern version of Workbench, maybe these are worth investigating and getting an AUI adapter so I can plug those into my network. But here are the bridge cards, which is what this video is really going to be about. So this one here is the XT one. So this is very similar to the one that we already looked at on that previous video that I could not get working. 512K of RAM, custom ICs here. It's got the processor right there, an 8088, and it has a BIOS chip. So this is absolutely just a full XT on a card. And yes, you do connect the PC floppy drive right to this header here. The Amiga can read and write PC disks with a 3.5-inch drive, but I guess this is really for connecting to 5.25-inch, because I don't know if the Amiga native disk controller does properly support the 5.25-inch drive. It's probably because there's no like disk change notification, stuff like that. I mean, they both are double density formats, so it should theoretically work. But I guess for maximum compatibility, you connect the disk drives to this cable. You can put a Mathco processor on here, and yeah, not a whole lot else to say. This card achieved the promise set out by Commodore to allow you to run all PC software, at least stuff that worked on an XT, natively on your Amiga. And Commodore did make a version of this card that was for the Amiga 1000. So the 2000 wasn't the first machine with a bridge card in mind. The very first Amiga did support it, but it's possible that this was an adaptation of the one from the Amiga 1000 and turned into a Zorro card. Commodore did end up releasing subsequent follow-up cards like this one, which is a 286 base card. I'm not totally sure how much memory this has on it. This looks to be 512K right here. And this is probably the parity memory, so that's 512. Over here, there is more RAM, 41, so this is another 128K. So it's possible that this memory plus that memory is 640, but I'm not sure that's the case. I think this might be the system memory, and this RAM here is used to interface the PC side of things to the Amiga side, because there is some shared memory that has to be over the Zorro bus. So that's probably what's going on here. This says AT emulator sandwich board along the top edge here, which is kind of interesting. I'm noticing that this board's a little worse for wear. Like this capacitor here is broken, has a broken lead. I should check all of them. Oh, this one does as well. This cap is just sort of floating there. So I'm gonna have to disassemble this and attempt to fix those. Lots of bent pins, which of course is not a big deal. You just bend these back. This right here is for plugging a floppy drive into the board, just like on the other one. I think this supports high density. There is the floppy controller chip. We have the BIOS chips. We have two of them because this is a 16-bit card, of course. Let me try to split these cards here. And there it is. That's the underside. So we have the 286 chip right here. It's a 10 megahertz part. There is the Mathco processor slot. And then these chips here, which say Faraday on them, these are actually the chipset itself. So really, like I said, just like the XT board, this is very much like a full 286 on a card. The back side of the sandwich board there has a few bodge wires. Nothing substantial though. And there are some floating bodge wires there, which you probably just saw. Actually lifted a leg of that IC, and that IC, and that one, to solder those on. They're kind of, I don't know, A little bit of a butchering going on there for those bodge wires. So I'm just going to straighten out all the pins and replace these capacitors with new ones. The 4 original caps are all beat up, are out, including the 2 with the broken legs. I replaced them with Nichicons. They're 47 microfarad, 16 volts. I installed them in a sort of a bent over configuration there, just in case there's any kind of clearance issues. I don't think there should be, but this is a relatively thick card, so maybe there is clearance issues. Who knows? This one here doesn't have any damaged caps. It's got some caps on it as well. This is the XT card, obviously. There is one there, which is fine. And there's one here that's fine. There's one there that's fine. So I think I need to grab an Amiga and try these out. Will it work? We'll start with the XT one, because that's the one I was trying before, and it never worked. And then we'll move on to the 286. All right, there's the 2000. This is the one I had the software installed on it, the Janus software. I still have the 360K drive in here, the one that was sent in last time. Grab a screwdriver and start pulling this apart. Now, I don't recall if I left the bridge card that I couldn't get working in this machine, so it may well still be in there. Can't remember. We'll find out shortly. And no bridge card is installed. There's just the floppy drive cable I left behind. One thing about the Amiga 2000 motherboard, it has 4 ISA slots, but 2 of them are 16-bit and 2 of them are 8-bit. Problem is, only 2 of them, the 2 16-bit slots here, actually cover the Zorro 2 slots. The thing is, if you put the 286 bridge card in, say, this slot, you only have 1 more 16-bit slot. And say you want to add an IDE hard drive interface, 16-bit network card, and say a VGA card, well, you're going to have things that work in 8-bit mode, which is not ideal. Now, it's quite possible to actually install 2 additional little 16-bit extensions on here. You have to remove all the solder from these holes and either buy some of these connectors here, these card edge connectors, or you take them off an old PC motherboard, one that's dead. I may end up doing that if the 286 card works, but we'll see about that. All right, so here's the XT bridge card. Let's get this thing into the machine. And you have to give it a good push to get it that fully into the slot. All right, I think I'm ready to go. Amiga's plugged into the open source scan converter, so I'll get a capture of the HDMI. Let's see if this machine even turns on. Let me just make sure the cables are connected. They are. Okay, no sparks. So one thing I am noticing is the computer doesn't appear to be booting. And I know this computer does work. There's a SCSI SD right here. It's connected to this GVP 50 megahertz accelerator. It's a 68030, and it just doesn't appear. Oh wait, I saw a little hard drive blink. One little blink. Try hit reset on the keyboard. The light goes dim and comes back, and we still have a black screen. So this card is actually preventing the whole machine from booting altogether, which isn't good. Let's take it out, see if that makes a difference. Just in case something else is wrong with this Amiga. Yep, there it is. It's actually booting right now. So why would the machine not boot with this card in there? Maybe I need to pull out these custom chips, give that a try. Not the Faraday one, because that's just the chipset, but this Commodore one, these 2 Commodore chips here. And this also has that extra memory on here, the 128K, for like the shared memory location. So 512 for the PC and 128K right here. Anyhow, we see the computer booted right up without any issue. Let me just give a quick inspection. Traces are good. There is no corrosion on this board that I can see. I guess I'll just push all these chips into their sockets. I mean, I don't know. That one's really firmly in there. All of these are really firmly in there. So, all right, I don't know. Let's put this back in. Is it possible that these XT bridge cards are like some of the most unreliable cards ever? Is that possible? Oh, it's booting. Maybe it just needed to be reseated. Maybe manhandling the card a little bit did it. Who knows? But it definitely wasn't booting with the card in there the first time around. But now it is. Now the question is, did I leave the Janus utilities on here? I'm not sure. Oh, there's a PC folder here. That's got to be it. PC color, PC reset. Well, let's try PC color. That's the same exact error I was getting before. Ignore these lines, by the way. That's just because I don't have the scan converter set to the exact right settings for the Amiga. Could not open Janus library. Really? PC prefs? Yeah, I think all of these are going to have the same problem. Basically, after reading about this, what it does is it tries to start up the PC card when you run these. That one doesn't seem to do anything. And as you do that, the Janus library is trying to communicate with the card through that shared memory. If it can't find the shared memory or whatever, then you get this error. Now, I could reset the machine into 68,000 mode, but I can't do that with the SCSI controller plugged into the accelerator because obviously it disables that as well. So it won't boot anymore. I do have an Amiga 2091, which I think is the model number. It's the SCSI card from Commodore that I could probably move over and to use that, but I don't have it handy. Let's run show config here. Do we see the bridge card? Yes, we do. There it is, 512K. And so it is showing up in there. So it's seeing the card, and yet it just doesn't work. I think here in sysinfo, I can turn off the caches. So let's look at boards in here. So there it is, A2288 bridge Commodore. Does say 0K, which is a little odd. I thought that would have said 128K or something like that. But we can turn all these cache modes off. There we go. So I think that should slow the machine down to some extent. And let's just see if that makes any difference whatsoever. I have a feeling it will not. Okay, so this still doesn't work even after turning the caches off. This could be a problem with the installation of the Janus software. It could be something in this machine that's causing this problem. I do have a video toaster in here. Could be that. There are a lot of possible factors because thanks to Commodore's wonderful software, I'm kidding there, it's got the worst troubleshooting in the world. So I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to stick the 286 card in here. I think the software is the same. Pretty sure it is at least. And let's see if that makes any difference. This card has jumpers and stuff on it, so I have no idea if these are configured correctly. There's one there. There's a few around the board, but let's just go for broke and plug this in. Oh, this has a pin 1. It's on the top. I'm going to plug the floppy drive cable in while I'm at it. Now it is only a 360K. I wonder if it stores the PC's BIOS settings in the Amiga, or is this like a connector here? There's a connector there. Is that for the speaker, or is that for the IBM BIOS? Oh, when you put these cards in, you got to make sure that these tantalums on the end of the card are folded over because the little holder on the front of the computer might hit them. All right, now I got to give this a really good shove. There it is. Shoved it into the slot. All right, here we go. Any sparks? Who knows what's going to happen? Turns on. That's a good sign. I mean, well, powered on. Is it going to boot? I just saw hard drive activity. It is booting. Sweet. There it is. Bridge card shows up again. 512K. Very similar looking to last time. All right, here we go. PC color. Could not open Janus library. Really? Well, one thing that's different about a 286 is it has, well, it should have a BIOS with postcodes. So theoretically, I could use my post card here. So I'm going to pop this into one of the ISA slots. I'm going to turn this on, and when you run the Janus software, I don't expect the PC card to be doing anything right now because it's in the off state. And sure enough, on the post card, which you can't see, it just got 2 dashes. But if this boots up and I try to run the Janus software, the PC color, hopefully that initializes the card and starts booting, and I can start seeing postcodes. PC color. Nope, nothing is happening. So I'm really starting to think now that this problem is entirely with this software install or something like that. So I guess it's off to Google to try to find out what to do and things to try, and maybe I'll take the accelerator out, and yeah, so stand by. All right, many hours. Have I said many enough times? Many hours have passed, and I've been working on this for quite a while. So this is a different Amiga 2000 than the one I originally had on the bench. Notice it does not have the 5¼ inch disk drive here, and it's got 2 floppy drives. That other Amiga was one I got a while ago. This was one that was donated by a viewer, and it had a bunch of battery damage, and I did a repair video about it. I'll find that video and link to it down below. Well, the big difference between this Amiga and the other Amiga is the other Amiga had Kickstart 3.1, that's the ROM on the Amiga that sort of starts booting the OS. This one has 2.0 installed. Now I could have taken another computer apart and installed a 2.0 ROM in there, but I knew I already had this one with 2.0 in here, so I grabbed it. In addition, my other one has a GVP 68030 accelerator, I think 40 or 50 megahertz. This one has the Commodore branded accelerator in it. What is it? The 2630, the A2630, I think it is. It's a 68030 at 25 megahertz or something like that. It has some memory, fast memory on here. I have a RAM card, and I have the Amiga A2091 card in here. This is the hard drive controller card, a SCSI card that came in a lot of Amigas. In fact, when I had an Amiga, I had this card in there. It can have some RAM on here. This one doesn't have it, but this card is the SCSI interface for this machine. The accelerator on here does not have SCSI. So when I grabbed this machine, it had no hard drive in it at all, and I had been trying to use it with my SCSI to SD adapter here. I use this on all of Macs and stuff. You've definitely seen this on videos. Unfortunately, there's something going on with this hard drive controller when it comes to this adapter, at least the way it's configured. When I plug it in here, I can install the OS, but when I try to boot, I get random hard drive errors, like CRC errors, and it actually won't successfully boot the computer anymore. It mostly reads, but it doesn't quite work. Now I actually have 3, not just one, but not just 2, but actually 3 of these A2091 cards, and I tried all 3. One of the cards doesn't seem to work at all, but the other 2 do work, but they cause errors with this particular adapter here. So I actually have a spinning hard drive connected. It's connected externally here through the SCSI cable into the 2091. And I have gone ahead and I installed Workbench 2.1 or whatever the associated workbench is that goes with this Kickstart ROM. But here it is, and everything is working. And it also has 2 megabytes of chip memory on this machine. There's a little board plugged into the motherboard under one of the chips, and that expands that memory to 2 megabytes. 1 megabyte is typical on the motherboard for Amiga 2000s. So here's the first bridge card that Jamie sent. This is the 8088 version, the XT one. Let's pop this into the computer. There it is. Taking a look at the system config here, we see that it's a 68030. It's an ECS machine. I do have 2 megabytes of chip memory, as I mentioned, and then we have a total of 4 megs on the accelerator card and 2 megs on the super card, so 6 megs of fast memory. We have the 2091 hard drive controller, as I mentioned, and we have the bridge card, so it is recognizing that bridge card. Now I've went ahead and I already installed the bridge card software in here, so I guess here we go. Is it gonna work? I'm gonna double click PC color and let's see. It works, it actually works. So this is the XT card, and as I suspected, 512K, but this actually works. In the other machine, it wouldn't work at all, and right here, it just immediately worked. Now it is saying drive A bad. I don't have any kind of floppy drive hooked up to it, so I'm gonna power off this machine. I'll grab a floppy drive and connect that into here. I have the usual test 3.5-inch floppy drive I use for everything on the PC side. Now this is a high density disk drive, and this XT bridge card, oh, if I can get this out, come on. There we go. This does not have a high density floppy drive controller, so when I connect this up, it will work only as a double density disk drive, but that's fine. It should do the trick and allow me to use 720K floppy drives, or floppy disks, that is. So one thing while this boots up, you may have noticed that it looked like it was already booted when I ran the software, that PC Color software. Like it didn't need to turn on the PC and count the memory. It had already done that. So I guess that just sort of happens in the background. Let's see if we run this. What are we gonna see here? Okay, so look, it's still counting up the memory, but it was already partially through that process. Okay, drive 1 bad. Oh, I just realized that the floppy drive is not connected to power, so that's gonna cause a little bit of a problem. Let's plug this in. So let's try PC reset here. Oh, I just heard the disk drive spin. Let's run PC Color. So while this is counting up, I can press Amiga M to switch back and forth to the regular desktop. And of course, if I drag down the screen there it is counting up the drive A bad. Really? Really? Why don't I try sticking in my XT IDE card, see if that is supported on the XT. I don't know, it should be. Theoretically, it should be able to boot off that. Oh, you know what though? I just realized this is configured for D1000, the ROM on here. So I'm gonna have to switch that out to a different address. It's funny, it's trying to access the hard drive on the Amiga, and I did configure a partition on that hard drive, like a virtual PC drive. It looks like it's trying to boot off that, but it almost seems like this BIOS does not support option ROMs, which it needs to boot off the XT IDE. All right, I've gone ahead and hooked up a 360K drive. Let's see if this even works. It's not even seeking this drive, so I'm almost suspecting there's a fault on this board. It should at least try to seek it. Now, while this boots up, let's just talk about the fact that this is working on this machine. Look, it just says drive 1 bad. It's working on this computer and yet wasn't working on the other one. And I installed off the exact same install disk on both of them, and it just didn't work at all on the other one. Now the question is, what on the other machine caused it not to work at all? Like I couldn't even get to this point. Was it the accelerator card? Was it the Kickstart 3.1 ROMs that I had? Like, and the associated 3.1 workbench? I am just not sure. And it really is so frustrating because it just simply said that error message about no library, and that was it. The install process, identical on both these machines. And on the other machine, there really is, I don't have any custom software on there. I mean, it's pretty much a vanilla install of Workbench 3.1, and yet not working. Now, I've read online that people said it could work on 3.1 and some of the later versions as well. So that just, I don't understand where the problem lies exactly. Anyhow, clearly, while this works, it's not booting the XT IDE, so I might as well take that out. There's clearly an issue of some kind. I don't want this disk drive to fall over here. There's clearly an issue of some kind with this bridge card. And let me just make sure I have this cable connected correctly. On these types of floppy drives, when you hook the cable up backwards, what happens when you apply power, the disk drive light will be solid on. And that's because a bunch of the pins are grounded on here, and when you have it flipped around, it grounds some of the pins on the drive, which cause it to be selected. Now this IC right here says FDC, so floppy drive controller, 9268, and SMC part there. I don't know which is a date code, maybe 8838 is the date code, and the part number is 9268. I'm not sure. I can maybe try to find another one of those chips and swap that on. But it's kind of cool that this card is working. Let's give this card a try. This is the 286 card. Let's see if this one works any different. We'll hook this floppy cable up in the same way. Oh, I can see that pin 1 is marked on this one. Now it has one pin cut out, it's missing, sort of like a key, and the other one had that pin in the exact same spot, which definitely confirms that the orientation of this connector is the same on both of these cards. Now, one thing that's annoying, and hopefully it's visible here, the fact that this is a double stack card completely blocks the Zorro slot that's next to it. And the problem is with this motherboard is the Zorro slot right here on the end actually got a little bit damaged by corrosion. Not sure it works properly. So that means that with these two cards in here and that there, I lose out to that slot and I lose out to that slot, which also means it's completely blocking the only available 16-bit slot in this computer. So that brings back the idea of using the desoldering iron to clean out these holes here and install 2 more of these little extensions for a total of 4 16-bit ISA slots. May as well go back to this high-density disk drive since this is a 286 and it does support, well, should support high-density disk drives. This 1.44 meg disk here has DOS 622, check it on there, plus a few other small little utilities. And I just realized that I was not running the capture on the XT bridge card testing there. Sorry about that. I am capturing now. So with the 286 card, it is the same software that's installed. It handles both cards the same way. Let's run PC prefs. And there it is, 2286 bridge card. So it's seeing it. And the Janus loader segment, monochrome and CGA. Okay, so let's run PC color. There it is. Hey, so we have 640K of RAM, 1 megs of RAM. Whoa, I don't think I caught that. And then battery failure. Okay, so I'm assuming you can plug a CMOS battery directly into this card, I guess. Device 0 config error, default config loaded 1.2 megabytes, clock not initialized. Oh, Control-Alt-Escape for setup. So Control-Alt-Escape, there it is. So time and date. Now there's actually no battery on this machine on the Amiga side either. So I can't really say if the time is synchronized. How do we see the time on the Amiga here? Time. So the time is 1812 and the date is March 1992. Okay, so that does not match here at all. All right, so diskette, let's switch this to 1.4 megs. Hard drive, I mean, I don't know, right? Like, it's supposed to be emulating a hard drive, right? So why is there a hard drive type? Video, so CGA is what we're using. We have no coprocessor. Okay, E to update CMOS and reboot. So I hit E, there it is. Now one thing, did you notice how slow that update screen was? Like as it switched from the BIOS screen to the regular, this boot screen here, it was very slow. And I have a feeling this is a pretty miserable experience. Oh, it's actually seeking the floppy disk and trying to boot it right now. Push F1 to continue. I think what happens here when it boots up, as it sits here, it counts the memory or whatever. It does this in the background on the Amiga, and it waits for you to push F1 once you switch over to it and you run, if I cancel out of this stuff, when you run this PC color here, that's what takes you over to this screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh boy. Look at that screen update rate. That is very, very sluggish. Wow, so color's working. You see it right there. Let's see if F-Disk is working. So it, like I said, I set up a hard drive on the Amiga side. Hey, look, it does see it, something here. No partitions defined. Okay, create partition. And it's making the hard drive LED on the Amiga side blink. So it absolutely is using like an emulated hard drive that's set up on the SCSI drive there. It makes me think that the hard drive types that are in the CMOS setup there, it's if you're using a hard drive controller like with an actual PC hard drive on the Amiga side. Now after rebooting, let me just format /C, and that should hopefully give us an actual bootable drive. And actually I can put back in the other XT card and it should boot off of it there as well. 31 megs, that was the maximum size that it let me create. When I was installing the software, it said up to 32 megabyte partition. Let's just quickly take a look at these options in here. So this was other window, which seems to create a second window. Why would you want that? I couldn't say. It's also not updating. Oh no, it is updating. No, it only seems to update whichever one you're selected. So if I click this one, there it is, it updated there. That's strange. Window borders, okay, that just puts this between full screen and in a window. Color, okay, you can pick your CGA colors. We have some options here for cursor blink rate, refresh, number of colors, so maybe we can get a bit more performance if we switch to 2-color mode. Oh yeah, that does seem to update faster. It's still not super fast. So if we do mode mono, I don't think I have mode on here. No, there's no mode command. We have display task priority. I think that allows you to speed up or at least prioritize the translation between the PC side and the Amiga side. And then we can turn on, and I just turned on interlaced, and it seems like it has crashed or something. It's actually still working because the disk drive is accessing. Let's turn off interlace. That doesn't look good. Okay, let's just quit. Nope, can't quit. It's weird how this thing is actually working, but it's sort of in a crash state. Okay, can't do anything. So we'll reboot the Amiga. Back into PC, if we hit F1, should boot off the hard drive. The floppy disk is right here. Let's see what we get. Totally worked. And there we go, booted off the C drive. So I'm copying check it onto the hard drive, and as I mentioned, you know, this is a fully multitasking system because of course it's not even emulating the PC, it's an actual PC that's just running there. So you could fully use the Amiga to your heart's content without affecting this copy process, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. So let's run landmark speed test, which I have on this disk here. I did a little bit of reading about this bridge card, the 286 one, and it should be running at 8 megahertz. Wow. It's so bad at updating the screen, you didn't even see it do the video test. So video is pretty fast, 1200 characters per second, and we're getting 9 megahertz equivalent on an 8.003 megahertz system. So basically this is running at the exact same speed as the original 5170, not the type 1 motherboard like I have, but the type 3 motherboard, or maybe the 2 and 3. Both are the ones that run at 8 megahertz. This is probably gonna run exactly that speed, which is what this column is right here. If this is 1.0, there it is. Then it's running at exactly the same speed as that machine. Now, while the processor is capable and all the other subsystems in there on the PC side are fully as fast as any 8 megahertz 286, what is not fast is this video update speed. I mean, when I hit enter, look at that. That scrolling is so slow. I really don't know. If you were using one of these back in the day, like, what did you think of this slow speed? It's gonna be fine for something like text processing, like if you're running WordPerfect or probably Lotus 123 or whatever. Like here we are in VI. This is a PC. The typing speed is just fine, but the screen update rate is really pathetic. Let's for fun run G setup here. This should actually probably work for the most part on the Amiga here. There it is. Oh, looks like I have the phase a little bit off on my scan converter. Looks like 90 works. Looks like that's a nice crisp setting right there. Just gonna save this profile as number 2. So anytime I use the Amiga, I just have to switch to profile 2. Let's see about the Cmos settings. Yeah, there it is, 1.44 meg drive. And of course the date and time are way off. But everything else actually looks correct. That's kind of cool. All right, so booting off the hard drive, we have Check It installed on here now. I think there's HD speed. Let's see if this is decent speed. Wow, it's counting up very slowly. I have a feeling the performance of the hard drive is gonna be very slow. Oh yeah, 97K per second. That is incredibly slow. Like even the slowest XT with an MFM hard drive is probably a couple 100K per second. So that's pretty bad for a 286. I'm just gonna copy everything off this disk, so we will go back to the XT card, and then I can run a couple of these utilities. I really do love the idea of like this type of switching capability, and I think I would have really loved this card even with its horribly slow update rate back when I had my Amiga. But I suppose if I was running like a serial program and downloading stuff from a modem or off of like the mainframe, it would be nice to have that happening on the PC side so I could completely use the Amiga side without any effects. Because I'm kind of curious, if we reboot the Amiga, I'm gonna do that right now. Does that reboot the PC as well? Or is that PC just sitting there and still working? Let's see, if we run PC Color after rebooting, no, it rebooted it. That's too bad. That would have been so cool if it just left it in exactly the same state. So you could play a game, like boot a game on your Amiga that took over the whole system while your PC was busy doing whatever, and you just rebooted and ran this software again to get back to your card. But that, unfortunately, that is not the case. All right, well, let's pop this out and go back to the other bridge card. Oh, it's really hard to get out because it's in the ISA slot and the Zorro slot. There we go. I'm just gonna give this floppy drive controller push, make sure it's in there properly. It was. All right, the XT card is back in. Let's see if that boots off the hard drive, and maybe I can run check it at least, and we can see if maybe I can see a problem with the floppy controller or something. I don't know. Look how quickly the Amiga boots up. I mean, that's pretty cool. This does have an accelerator in it, but that's just sweet how fast it is. It's a whole lot faster than this 8088 here that's in this bridge card, that's for sure. Nope, drive A just says bad immediately. It doesn't even try to access it. It is booting off the hard drive though, so that's kind of cool, starting MS-DOS. So we can run the MIPS utility here. Ooh, that was weird. Oh, whoa, okay. So maybe there's a fault here. I mean, it's definitely still running. So it definitely is running at the, XT equivalent speed for the most part here. But what's up with all this garbage here? And that certainly ran properly on the AT side. So it's not like the Janus software is the problem. And that has some corruption as well. Now, I didn't show this in the video, but I ran this quickly on the AT side. It worked perfectly, no issues at all. So something's wrong here. Look at this, loading's over there. It should be up here. Oh yeah, this is definitely slightly screwed up here. All right, so checking out the memory map here, I realized why the XT IDE card wasn't working. I set this to map into D800, and if we take a look here, the Janus stuff looks like it's occupying D1000 all the way up to E1000. So it's going to DFFF. So it would have conflicted with the BIOS that's on here. So that would have explained why that didn't work. I'm going to switch to the one other setting this supports, and that's, I only have 3 settings available because I'm running a 28C256 in here. Now when I hit F1, hopefully it should show the XT IDE BIOS. If it doesn't, then again, this thing doesn't support option ROMs. It doesn't work. Wow. That's wild. Running check it. Let's see if we have corruption. Hey, look, no corruption. So maybe that MIPS program, which is pretty innocuous, it doesn't really cause any issues anywhere. Seemed to cause an issue here, but now check it seems fine. Let's look at the memory map. Let's see if we at least see the XT IDE BIOS mapped into memory. We are not even seeing it mapped at all. That doesn't make sense. This card absolutely works. This XT IDE card, I used it like the other day in something else and it was fine. But it's really not showing anything mapped into this memory space. So don't know what's up with that. All right, so I'm just running through the video test here. I'm curious. Oh, the slowness is pretty horrible. Pretty horrible. So this does run in different resolutions, and look at this, actually switches the Amiga into a 320 resolution here for the 40 column text mode. And as it switches, it sort of struggles. Well, that's weird. Why is this off to one side? Let's see, full size window. There we go, that fixed it. Okay, it does not support blinking text. There we go again. Once it switches from 40 to 80 column, it has this problem, and you can't even turn off and on the borders. It's sort of grayed out. But picking full size fixes that. Oh, there's the entire color palette. It's definitely not exactly CGA, but you can customize it under here, right? We can make this any color we want, which is kind of cool. So it looks like it switched to 320 by 240, and I bet you it's only, yep, there it is, just 4 colors. So that is fascinating. It actually changes the Amiga into the appropriate resolution, probably to speed things up. Like, what's the difference between this one and that one? Nothing. It's the same 4 colors. And then this will be a 2-color mode. And there it is, just 2 colors. And here it's going to rotate through the different palettes. Oh, those are vibrant. That's definitely not accurate. This looks pretty good though. And that's it. I got to go to full size here to try to get this back. There it is. Let's quickly check out the main system benchmarks. So it's slightly slower than an actual XT for whatever reason, but I have a feeling that's like margin of error. Probably just running this again would actually cause it to be slightly different. Now I have a feeling that this, okay, so like the CGA emulation, okay, it's a little bit slower, but it's decent speed. It's a lot faster than what we actually see on the Amiga screen. And that's because whatever is translating the CGA graphics to the Amiga side is just a very, very slow process. All right, so there's a few things I would like to try here. First of all, I'm going to turn off the CGA. We're going to enable the monochrome. You must reboot the PC side. Okay, so let's do PC reset. And let's run PC mono. Let's see what that's all about. Seems to have locked up the computer. Mouse pointer is not working anymore. I'm going to reset the Amiga. This is buggy, really buggy. Really does surprise me that this is a Commodore product here, and yet we've already run into like a bunch of bugs. Like, didn't they update stuff? I mean, I don't know. Let's see if this, okay, so it saved the settings. Good. PC mono. And it just froze again. The reason why I was making these changes is because I wanted to actually stick a VGA card in this computer. I have an 8-bit VGA card. We could have tried, but it doesn't seem to work. I can't get to mono mode. You can't run CGA and VGA at the same time, but you can run monochrome and VGA at the same time. So let's see if we run PC mono now that I enabled both adapters. Look at that. That actually is working. So this is interesting. Why does this work? And I assume if we go to here, we'll see the computer booting. Yeah, there it is. Unless there's like a jumper setting or something on this card. Pick between mono and, but why was it freezing? Oh, I don't know. Okay, there's one more thing to test on this video, and it's this bridge card. This was one that was sent in by another viewer on a previous mail call, and I could never get this working at all. Now, it behaved exactly the same as those other 2 cards that Jamie sent in. It always said the Janus library wasn't working. But I never tried any of these cards on this computer. I only tried it on my other one with the GVP accelerator. And everything I read said it should work fine with a 68030, which it does, because that's what this is. And it should work with Kickstart 3.1. But something is incompatible on that computer that works on this. So this card I never got working. I reseated all of these custom chips. I took everything in and out of it. Okay, so this other card is in. Turn it on. So as I was saying, yeah, I could potentially swap this floppy drive controller with the one from here. Knowing Commodore, this is not a special custom part. I could probably find one of those on another floppy drive controller or something like that. But, oh, hey, the light is just on solid. Did I, oh, I have the cable plugged in backwards. It's what I was talking about would happen, that when you plug it in backwards, so I have the red stripe down here, that it would just have the LED on solid. So definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, that is the right way to plug that cable in. Let's check PC prefs before I run this, because I have, let's have color graphics enabled, PC reset, PC color. Oh my, okay, so it's working. Clearly it has an issue, but it's working. It's actually counting up the memory. Let's see if it even tries to use this floppy disk drive here. Interesting. So there's like a RAM problem or something. The fact that it's counting up the RAM, check some error, bad RAM or something it's trying to say there. So it does have a RAM problem. Let's see if it can even boot though. Disk boot failure. Okay. So the fact that the PC is kind of working, and it says It looks like it says optional or something there. D1000, I have a feeling that means that it's the RAM that's used to interface. I don't know why I'm pulling this card out because I have another one right here. So this is the main PC system RAM here, which I think is working fine because it counted up and looks like everything's operational. It's this memory right here. This is 128K. I think it's 128K. Yes, these are 64K for 2 chips. 128K of RAM here. This is used to connect the PC to the Amiga. So all that graphics stuff, but also the hard drive emulation, the floppy drive, and the parallel port. Well, actually the parallel port's right here, but whatever other ports that this thing can run through there goes through this memory. So on that card, one of those chips is bad. Or I suppose it could be something associated with one of those chips, like it could be these large ICs here. It's hard to know exactly. And unfortunately, it would require desoldering the RAM and quite a bit of work. But okay, well, anyways, it's kind of cool that this actually works. So one last thing I'm gonna do, I keep saying that it's the last thing I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna take this floppy drive controller off of here, and we'll stick this on the other board, and we'll see if that revives the floppy drive. Nope, it just immediately says drive A bad. That leads me to believe that there's a problem on this board in some other place, like one of those large custom chips or something else has gone faulty. All right, so this is the card from Jamie. I'm just gonna stick this on here. It says bad FD. And this is the other card. I stuck the floppy drive controller back in here. Well, this is the one from the other card, but I don't think either of those chips are bad. I'm gonna stick this on here. Bad 128K RAM. I'm somewhat confident that the floppy drive problem that's on here is not the chip, and it's something to do either with the chipset or some of this logic that decodes this into the IO space of the processor here. Could be these PAL chips. Could be a bunch of things, and unfortunately, it's not super easy to troubleshoot this thing because it kind of needs to be in the Amiga to work. And on this one, it's hopefully just some bad RAM, but it also could be something with these custom Commodore chips that is causing the issue. Schematics for this card will go a long way to help troubleshoot where the problem might lie, but probably the RAM is the quickest and easiest thing to troubleshoot with this. Like take all 4 of those chips off, swap those out, see if that changes anything. Well, and then there's the 286, which appears to work perfectly. So other than the fact that it takes up 2 slots because of this big piggy bank thing going on here, this card works. And in my reading, everyone always said that these were very fiddly, these cards, and caused all sorts of issues, even going back to the old days when they were new. And the 286 cards were a lot more reliable. But I do have to say that now that I have seen these bridge cards firsthand, that slow update rate is so bad. That's really a kind of a deal breaker for using these. Like, I thought you were gonna get pretty good performance. You could even play some games and stuff like that. You can't play any games on this. I didn't try it. When I saw Jan Beta run one of these in his computer, it was like the XT one, and he tried to run Planet X3, and I saw the graphics updating at this incredibly slow rate, I knew it was gonna be bad. But I don't think he had a 68030 accelerator in his computer, and he didn't have the 286 one. But the performance on the 286 one with the 68030 seems pretty abysmal. So I'd love to hear people's comments down below when they use these back in the day on their Amigas, like what they used them for and what they think of that performance of the video update speed, because it's so bad. Also, any tips on how to get this working with a VGA card or even a CGA card, and then also the XT IDE would be very helpful. I haven't done a lot of research on these cards yet, so there might be information about how to do that, but in my troubleshooting, trying to get these working on the other Amiga, I just found a lot of information that says, no, it works for me. I don't know, something wrong with your computer or something wrong with the cards. Not a lot of helpful information on trying to get these working. So I'm really kind of glad that at least I know I have like one working formula here where these actually work. So would I recommend people running out and buying these? No, definitely not. You're way better off getting an old PC and using that separate than trying to use your Amiga with one of these bridge cards. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I can't help but be a little disappointed in these cards. So anyhow, thank you very much, Jamie, for sending these in. I really, really appreciate it. And it's kind of cool that this one fully works and the other one almost entirely works. And maybe I'll do a repair-a-thon or a little bit of a repair video trying to fix these other two cards, at least the RAM problem on the other one, and try to get that floppy controller working. But who knows about that? That might be a real long shot and a real time suck. So got to figure that out. But anyhow, thanks again, Jamie, for sending these in and those network cards. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone else who sent in mail call items that I haven't shown yet. There are still a ton of those, and I will be getting to those. And of course, thanks to my patrons who are supporting me. I really, really appreciate it. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen right now. And if you want to become a patron, you can as well. There's a link in the description so you can go sign up if you so desire. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, subscribe, all that good stuff. Don't forget to check out my second channel, and that is gonna be it. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.